I am going to spotlight our next amazing speaker as well. Here we go. Yay, there she is. Let me tell you a little bit about this amazing lady. I've had the joy to, well, first of all, I feel like I've known her from a distance for probably 15 plus years, because I read Go for No 15 to probably when it first came out, actually nearly 20 years ago now, kind of thing. So I kind of just watched from a distance, but we connected a little while ago through LinkedIn, and we've had a couple of catch-ups, and I just really love, first of all, I'll give you her official kind of bio, but I just want to say I just love your heart, Andrea. I really do. I love just talking with you. I can tell that you just really want to be able to serve people at the highest level. That comes across. But let me just tell everybody just a little bit about. So everyone loves the sound of yes. It's so positive, so empowering. And then there's no. And we've heard that a lot from our speakers already today. For most people, no is just the opposite. Negative, draining, a small two-letter word that has the power to literally stop people dead in their tracks. But what if everyone's wrong? What if you could completely change the way you think about no? And that's what literally today has been about. So Andrea is the co-founder of Courage Crafters Inc. and co-author of the best-selling book Go for No. I'd love for you to put in the chat if you've already come across the book Go for No. Yes is the destination, no is how you get there. For 2 decades, Andrea has been teaching people in virtually every business and industry how to think and feel differently about failure, rejection, and the word no to achieve their goals and dreams. She has got so many different accreditations over the years. It's just amazing, and including the Go for No strategy has been featured in online and offline magazines and journals, including Success Magazine. I love that magazine, Forbes, and many others. Today, Go for No is a well-known methodology in the world of sales and widely recognized as the singular best program that deals with rejection in business. And as I said, an all-around really just lovely person. We're so excited to have you here all the way from Florida. So it's kind of like other side of the world, and thank you so much for staying up late on a Friday evening to be able to present to our team today. Thank you, gorgeous lady. Over to you.
Thank you, Celine. It is my pleasure to be with everybody today, which is actually tomorrow for me. And I have to say, I was absolutely blown away by the training from Adam and Ange and Christy. Wow. If we had had a meeting, I don't think we could have planned this more perfectly. You guys are amazing. And I'm so honored to follow you and to continue today's training. So we're going to talk about rejection. It is my favorite thing to talk about. I certainly never thought I would be an expert in failure and rejection and hearing the word no, but I am. That's what has happened. And by the way, so when I talk about rejection, we're talking about taking a negative reality and turning it into a positive, turning it from an obstacle into an asset. I mean, no one likes to hear the word no. Everybody loves the word yes, but we're going to change this. I'm going to change your mind in just under an hour. So get ready. And by the way, I have to give Celine a lot of credit too, because it is the enlightened leader who deals with this issue. I often say this is like the elephant in the room. A lot of managers, a lot of leaders, they would just rather not talk about it. They would just rather, say rejection, doesn't exist. Just pretend that it's not happening. Forget it. It's no big deal. But when you are out there and you are facing rejection, when you are getting no, it's not no big deal, right? It's a big deal. And so we're going to give you tools, we're going to give you strategies, and I'm going to give you an entire new mindset shift to deal with this issue. And that's why it's so cool that you've got leadership like Celine, who sees that this is an issue that we want to talk about, we want to address, we want to identify, and not just pretend that it doesn't exist, because that doesn't do anyone any good. So what are some of the signs that rejection affects you in your life and in your business. And this is stuff that I have seen over the last 20 years of speaking about this topic. Here's what I see. And if this resonates with you, if I say something that kind of strikes you, say yes in the chat. So a lot of times when people are, that rejection is affecting them, affecting their business, they will only call or reach out to people that they think or believe will say yes. They might get depressed after getting a no. And so they get depressed, they feel down, and then they slow down or they stop their activity entirely. So I'm seeing a lot of yeses. Let's keep going. Procrastination. They do everything in the business, like all the fun stuff, right? You got a fun business, you got great products, but they procrastinate about making calls, about reaching out to people, right? That's a big sign. You get nervous or anxious when it comes to looking like a salesperson or when selling. You avoid situations where you might fail. That's a big one, right? Failure. You worry and you fear that somebody is going to think that you are being pushy and aggressive. And here's the good news. Nothing about Go for No is pushy or aggressive. And I know Adam dealt with that. He said, none of us want to be, the salesy salesperson. No, of course we don't. No is a perfectly acceptable answer, actually. So we're going to talk more about that. And eventually, when all of these things add up, right? The procrastination and the fear and the stress and the anxiety and the you don't want to do anything, then you're just not having any fun anymore. And that's when you feel like it's not for you, that maybe this wasn't the right decision. So don't even say yes to that, because we're going to push that aside. So if all of those things are the issues when it comes to rejection and how it's affecting you, then here's the next question, really important. Is it possible to become someone who does not fear rejection? Is that even possible? What do you guys think? I'm curious to know. Do you think that it's actually possible? Okay, I'm getting some yeses. Yes, this is good. This is really good. Of course it's possible. Listen, I have seen this. That happened to me. I became that person. There's three things that are really key in terms of making it possible. And by the way, let's get something clear here. We are biologically wired in our DNA to not want to get rejected. It is wired into us. You ever get rejected? And it could be any rejection. It could be a business rejection, or maybe even a friend or a romantic interest, and you literally feel it like it's almost painful, or you feel it in your gut. That's where I feel rejection. Literally, you feel it. Why? Because it's deeply wired into our DNA as humans. We are designed to collaborate. We're designed to live in groups, in families, right? In herds, in tribes, whatever word you want to pick. And so the idea is, from a self-preservation standpoint, well, you were designed not to get thrown out. I mean, you want to get thrown out and then now you're hunting and you're foraging on your own? Well, no, of course not. That would be very dangerous, right? So we're dealing with our kind of primal brains here and your brain does this fantastic job protecting you from rejection, right? Your brain is like, listen, if you get a no today, you're going to be living under the freeway overpass tomorrow. I'm just telling you, right? That's the stuff your brain is saying to you. And you're like, real? Oh my gosh, I don't know. That seems really bad. That seems serious. And so your brain's freaking out, telling you these horror stories, because that's its job. That's what it was designed to do. So is it possible to become someone who's fearless, who has no fear? Well, we can't get rid of that feeling. That gut reaction is something that really cannot be wiped away, but you can learn to think differently. And when you think differently, you can oftentimes change how you feel, and you can dramatically lessen that biological feeling, that kind of knee-jerk reaction that we've all been trained. Now, I have seen this being done by people over the last 2 decades, time and time again, I've heard so many amazing stories of people who have just changed their mindset by embracing these topics. And I was alluding to this. There's 3 things that these people have in common. And so I want to tell you what they are, because this is so important to become someone who doesn't fear rejection, at least on that main surface level, right? That day-to-day level. And the first thing is they're open-minded. They're open-minded. They avoid the 3-word phrase that kills growth. It kills learning. And I'm going to tell you what these 3 words are. And the 3 words are, I know that. You ever know somebody like that, right? You tell them something and they say like, I know that. You tell them something else, they go, I know that. They go on a training for a couple hours. I know that, I know that, I know that, right? Are they doing it? No, but I know that kills growth. So having an open mind. Number 2, and I believe that Adam talked about this and Ange talked about this, belief that it's possible, belief that it's possible for you. Sometimes we identify with, traits about ourselves, characteristics in our personality, and we sometimes take deep ownership of them. And one of them I have seen is where people say, I hate the word no, I hate rejection, I can't be a salesperson. And they own that deeply. It becomes like a personal characteristic that can't be changed. And so I come along and I'm like, we're going to change your mindset and we're going to help you become somebody who can face rejection and move through it easily. And what do you think someone with that mindset, with that belief system, how does that jive? It doesn't, right? They're going to hold on to their personal characteristic, which is, I'm not a salesperson. I hate being rejected. It's really painful, right? That's what their belief system is. So with that open-mindedness of, hey, I'm gonna learn. I'm gonna be open to these new concepts. I'm gonna be open to these new ideas. And I'm gonna test out the belief that I don't have to own these things. That is not who I am. I'm not so deeply, I can change, I can grow. This is rooted in the growth mindset. So belief is so key. Believe it's possible. And then just having a willingness to try new things, right? Having a willingness to take action and to try and to fail. So that's also huge. Now I want to take you all back and tell you how I discovered Go for Now. And I was working in a job. I was at a company called Lens Crafters. They were an eyeglass company, really big here in the United States. I was working my way kind of part-time. I was a part-time salesperson. And simultaneous to this, I was getting a Bachelor of Science degree in criminal justice. So I'm getting my degree and it's coming time for graduation. And I find out, and by the way, I wanted to be a crime scene investigator. Now, this was like over 20 years ago. This is before the TV shows. Like there wasn't even the CSI and the crime scene investigation. I wanted to be a crime scene investigator. And I found out from the sheriff's department that there were literally no jobs. But the good news was I could intern and maybe for a couple years for free. And eventually they would give me a position. I wasn't interested in that. I was ready to make money. I had gone to school for 4 years. I mean, right? You guys it's like I was done being the starving student. So in the meantime, I'm working at Lens Crafters and they are saying, Andrea, you're amazing. And we want to promote you to assistant manager and to manager. And so I said, you know what? I have this 4-year degree, but I'm just going to go to work. I'm going to get into sales management. And that's what I did. I chose this job that I was working in. And I quickly moved through the ranks and I started doing training, sales training, customer service training, even optics, like technical training. And I met my now husband, Richard. And he was also a trainer. He was one of their top trainers. He was amazing. And we would often have conversations about our sales philosophies and sales strategies and things like that. He was kind of a mentor to me. And one day we're standing in one of the stores and he tells me the go for no story. This is a story that happened to him. And he proceeds to tell me about this time that happened much, much earlier to him when he was a young guy selling suits for a living. He was selling suits for a living in Los Angeles, California, and his sales were abysmal. In fact, they were so abysmal, he was pretty sure that they were going to fire him, which wasn't going to be a good thing because as it turned out, he had just moved from Chicago to Los Angeles. And the last thing he wanted to do was get fired and have to crawl back home with his tail between his legs and admit that he wasn't successful. So it was very important for him to keep this job. As luck would have it, a district manager, a guy by the name of Harold, was scheduled to visit the store. And Richard thought that if he could impress Harold on this store visit, that they would give him some more time to improve his sales. So the day comes. Harold's going to show up. Richard is there. They have donuts and coffee. Everybody hangs out a little bit, and then they open the doors to the store. It's 10 o'clock, and in walks this very well-dressed gentleman who announces that he wants to buy an entire wardrobe of clothing. And Richard is the salesman who gets to help him because he was the first salesman in that morning. So that's kind of how the system went. And Richard proceeds to take care of this man. He is selling him a suit and a sport coat and shirt, slacks, socks, belt, underwear, pocket square. It's this huge sale. It came to $1,100. And keep in mind, so this is now years and years ago, probably like 5,000 US dollars today. He sends the customer on his way. And now Richard, my husband, is waiting for Harold to congratulate him on this fabulous sale, right? Because like he just had this great sale. He sold this guy all this stuff. Harold doesn't say anything. And finally, they're standing side by side. And Harold looks over at Richard and he says, "That was a nice sale, kid." And Rich is like, "Yeah, did you see that, Harold? $1,100. And Harold said, "Yeah, Richard, yeah, do you mind if I ask you a question?" And then Richard said, "Well, sure, yeah, go ahead." And Harold said, "Out of curiosity, Richard, what did that customer say no to?" Richard thought about the sale. He reviewed everything that he had laid in front of that man. And he said, "Harold, what do you mean would that customer say no to? Everything I laid in front of him, he purchased. I mean, he didn't say no to anything." And then Harold asked him the really important question. He said, "Then how did you know he was done?" And that was the question that hit Richard like a punch gut in the stomach. How did he know he was done? Because that customer, Richard had never spent over $1,000 on clothing in his life. When you got to $1,000, you were done. He would ring the sale up and send the customer on his way. So Richard had to admit there right in front of Harold, the district manager he's trying to impress. He said, "Harold, he didn't say no to anything. How did I know he was done? He just was done, right?" And then Harold said to him, he said, "Richard," he said, "I watched you sell. You're not bad, but your fear of the word no is going to kill you. I think if you could just learn to get over that, you could become one of the great ones." And as Richard likes to tell this story, he went home 2 letters from greatness. The letters were N-O. He didn't know if he had what it took to be successful, but actually he knew that he had what it took to fail more. He could hear no more often. He could show more products to customers and be willing to hear no. And that's exactly what he did. He became an award-winning salesman overnight. No, it took a whole year, but that was the transition. That was the moment. And sometimes it just takes one mentor, one leader, as Jim Rohn likes to say, one good idea to change everything. And it did. Richard became a trainer. He moved into different companies. And so there we're standing on the sales floor at LensCrafters, and he's telling me this story, and my mind is blown. I'm like, oh my gosh, here no more often? I could do that. Now, I have to tell you all something else. You see, I thought that I was a superstar salesperson. Oh, I did. I was fantastic. I was so good. Customers loved me. I could build rapport, have conversations, ask good questions. They loved me. But then I had to get honest with myself, and I got honest and I said, you know what? I don't like to hear no. I will do anything not to hear no, because if somebody says no to me, then a couple situations must exist. One, I'm probably being pushy, aggressive. I don't want that. Two, if they say no to me, that means maybe they probably don't like me. And I want people to like me. I want people to love me. I'm a recovering pathological people pleaser. People have to like me. If this is you, listen, I am a founding member. I've got a master's degree in this. If this is you, we're in the same club, okay? so this is who I was. These were characteristics of who I was. So as much as I was a great salesperson, I also didn't like to hear the word no. So this changed everything for me. I applied this on the job. Even though I was general manager by this time, running the lab side and doing training and everything, I still wanted to see if it worked, and it did. So then Richard comes to me not too long after, and he says, Andrea, how would you like to quit your job here and launch a company with me, speaking, training, and one of the things that we'll teach is go for now. And I was just crazy enough and believed in this concept so much that I said, yes, let's do it. So after a couple months of talking and planning and preparing, yeah, I quit. We had no safety net. I had no idea what I was doing. And our goal was to go out and cold call on businesses. And back then, okay, I want to make sure that everybody can hear me. Okay. All right, good to go. There was no social media. I'm literally I'm cold calling and building our business. And that's how it started. And that was over 20 years ago. So I have spent the last 2 decades training people and studying people's responses about rejection, the mindset behind it, how to help people get over this idea of taking it personally. And along the way, I have done so much work on myself to not be that person that I was back that day in the store that had to be liked at all costs and didn't want to hear the word no. So all of that has changed for me. So when I say, is it possible to become somebody who doesn't fear rejection, I'm not just saying, yeah, I've seen it, because I have. I had to do it myself. Now, the funny thing is, when we wrote Go for No, both of us, Richard and I both, could have never written that book if no was easy for us. If we were one of the people that just said, like, just go out there, you're fine. It's just rejection, you can deal with it. We couldn't do that because we didn't have the perspective of what it's like when you don't want to hear that no, when you take that rejection personally, when you have the anxiety about a no, all of that, right? We're experts at that. We know how it is. We know how it feels. So what I want to do now that I've kind of laid the foundation and told you guys the genesis of where Go for No came from. And after we quit our jobs and launched our company, we wrote the book, which is a whole long story. Oh my gosh, I could tell you guys funny stories about that. It was a 10-year overnight success story. You have to be persistent and face a lot of failure and rejection if you're going to write a book. Just going to throw that out there. But what I want to do with the balance of my time is take you through, and you have this in your workbook. I believe that it's on page 8, 5 core go for no concepts. These are kind of they're strategies, and they're also rooted in the go for no mindset. So let's go ahead and let's dig into these 5 core go for no concepts now that we have our foundation laid down. And the first concept is about redefining failure and success. I always start with this one because it's so critical. You know, we've all been taught and trained to seek success, right? We want yeses. We want to be successful. And there's nothing wrong with that, okay, right? That's what we all want. But we've all been kind of sold this old model. And if you look at your handout there in your workbook, you'll see strategy number 1. And in strategy number 1, you are in the middle. And failure and rejection and hearing the word no is on one side, and success and getting yeses and all of that kind of stuff is on the other. And we've been taught, and this is around the world. This is not the US, UK, Australia, India, Africa. This is Asia. It is around the world. I hear from people all over the world all the time. This is the model that everybody is taught. And we're in the middle, and we think our job is to do everything within our power to avoid failure, to avoid rejection, not hear the word no, and to go towards yes. But there is a new model. There's like, I guess, the secret model. It's the model that's more effective. And really, it's you are on one side. And you'll see in your workbook, you can write in the words. Then it's failure. Then it's rejection. Then it's hearing the word no. And the success that you are seeking is on the other side of it. You don't achieve the yeses. You don't get the success by avoiding failure and avoiding rejection. I think Christy really did a good job of without articulating this model, explaining that this is how the numbers work. This is exactly how the numbers, they play out. So the idea is that you move through the failure, you move through the rejections, success is on the other side. Success and failure are opposite sides of the same coin. You don't have one without the other. You want more success, you are going to need to fail more. And now think about this. I'm saying the word failure because we demystify this word. This is not a bad word. There's nothing wrong with the word failure. It doesn't mean that you're a failure as a person. It means a failure was had, right? You got a no big deal. So we use the word failure liberally. And over the years, I've had people try to talk me out of it. No, I will not do it, because the more that we don't say a word, the more power it has over us. So let's just get that out of the way. The new model, this is the foundation. And the reason that this is the foundation and why I start with this is that if I came out here today and I told all of you, just start hearing no more often, you'll be fine. You'll go out and start doing it. And then you'll go like, this seems wrong. Like, this seems like the wrong strategy. Something's missing. This is the foundation. It is the timeless principle. It is the fail your way to success philosophy, that you don't have one without the other. So when we implement Go for No, when we implement the strategy and you think, wow, maybe I'm doing this wrong. Like Christy said, maybe I'm hearing no after no after no. I'm talking to all these people and the doubt creeps in, and you say like, maybe I'm doing, something's wrong. No, you are on the right path. Oftentimes people, they get on the road to success and they're driving along and they see the sign marked failure and they think, oh, I'm on the wrong road. I got to turn around. I got to do a U-turn right now and go back the other way. I must not be going the right way. It's the people that get this new model that go like, oh, failure, keep going. See another sign marked failure, keep going. The success that you're seeking is out there. It's through. It's not back in the other direction. So that is concept number 1. Core concept number 2 is to change your interpretation of a no. So I want to ask you a question. Feel free to write this in the chat. When you hear or get a no, how do you respond internally? What do you say to yourself? What are some of the words that you might say to yourself in your head, like immediately kind of knee-jerk reaction, like, oh man, I messed that up, or yeah, we got to damn it. We got some dams. What did I do wrong? I made a mistake, right? They don't know enough yet. Good. Not again. What did I do wrong? Right? We question what they didn't like me, maybe. Yeah, I've been there. I messed up. So we immediately start knee-jerk reaction of, I did something wrong. What is wrong with me? We question that. And then the next question is, and that this is here in your workbook as well, how do you respond also externally? And I'd love you to give a couple answers to this as well, or an answer. What do you do? What do you do externally? Do you slow down? Do you double down and go like, I'm making more calls? I'm gonna stay at this. Do you say, I'm just gonna take the next couple days off? Somebody said, take a step backwards. Jay did. I slowed down. You avoid, you put it aside for a bit, right? Because it doesn't feel good, because the message that we're telling ourselves is, you messed up. So who among us, right, messes up and then says, oh, I want to mess up again. I want to mess up more. This is great. I am failing all over the place and I just want to do it more, right? No, of course not. So we say this negative message to ourselves, knee-jerk reaction, and then our behavior changes. Really cool formula that Jack Canfield shares in his presentations. It's E plus R equals O. And it's the emotion plus the reaction equals the outcome. The emotion plus the reaction equals the outcome. And so if you have that negative feeling, that negative emotion that you screwed up, plus slow down, guess what the outcome is going to be? Your business doesn't grow. What's going on with your business? It's stalled. It's not working, right? So it's very simple. E plus R equals O. So we have to change that knee-jerk reaction. If you're following the failure model that I just laid out for you, how should we actually react in the instance that we got to know? Like, how should we change our thoughts? So I'd love to hear from a couple of you. If we're operating off that new model, how do we change our interpretation? What do we say to ourselves that's different? Right? What do we say to ourselves that's a little bit more affirming? No for now. Exactly. It didn't work this time. Not right now. It's okay. Try again. It's not final. Yeah. Getting closer to a yes. Christy said, every no brings you closer to a yes. Be patient, not the right time. It's all good. And be affirming, right? Be affirming. There is absolutely no reason why in that morning, not yet, I'm learning. Thank you, Denise. Yes. Someone else said that. Yeah, pick myself up. So it's about having those affirming messages. In the old model of when you're operating on that old model, then yeah, you should just beat yourself up, right? Beat yourself up because you failed. In the new model, it's that affirming language of, hey, I took action. I did something courageous. We're going to talk more about courage in just a little bit. Being that when you're affirming to yourself, that changes your state of mind completely. And then, do you think that Maddie said, celebrate the no's? Yes, celebrate your activity. So when you change the messaging to yourself, do you think that will change the reaction, the physical reaction, the external reaction? If you say, wow, I'm learning, that was a not right now. Hey, I reached out to them. That was awesome of me. Let me keep going. Then it keeps you in action. So the whole goal here is to change the way that you see and that you are interpreting no. We've been taught to interpret it very negatively, right? Like it's bad. Like you all said in the chat, like we did something wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. You actually did something very right. So stop with those messages, change it up immediately. And then your external reaction should not be to slow down. It should be, hey, you know what? I'm going to just follow up with one more person. I'm going to make one more call. I'm going to send a couple more messages. This is how we retrain and reprogram and rewire the brain, right? You can see how very different a response is to this. This is what top performers do. If you think that top performers react to rejection and to failure like everyone else, they don't. They get this. They use the new model. They understand it's part of the process. So what do? They get a couple no's. They change what they say to themselves. We heard it. Christy doesn't berate herself. She's like, great, next. I'm going to make the numbers work for me. I'm going to keep going. That's what she does. She relies on those tracking sheets to motivate herself and to keep her focused, but it's the same thing. So she's just changing it up a little bit. The whole goal here is to help you get off of that yes, no emotional roller coaster, right? You get a yes, you're up on the roller coaster. You get a no, you're down on the roller coaster. You get a yes, you're up. You get a no, you're down. And I live here in Orlando. We have Universal Studios. We have Disney. There are so many roller coasters here. I don't go on them. I'm not a roller coaster person, and I don't know who is. So if you are, you'll know what I'm talking about. You get on a roller coaster for 30 seconds. And how does that roller coaster feel after just a 30-second or 60-second ride, right? It's exhausting. It's stressful. It's crazy. And so it's no wonder that when we put ourselves on that yes, no emotional roller coaster of the up and down, it's exhausting and we want to step away. So having that great language when you get a no, changing that interpretation, changing what you say to yourself in your head, and also for sure out loud, in case you're ever saying these things out loud, don't. Change that up and then stay in action. So that's number 2, change your interpretation of a no. So let's move on to concept number 3. And concept number 3 is about setting what we call no goals. Now, I know that everybody on this training is probably a very good goal setter, right? You wouldn't be on this training if you weren't a great goal setter. So I'm going to suggest a slightly different way of setting goals. This is a goal for the number of no's that you are going to collect. And this could be no's for anything. It could be no's for sales. It could be no's for just like invite, yes or no. It could be goals for even recruiting. So let me kind of tell you how we discovered this, Richard and I. After we launched our company, and now we actually needed to have clients, we're cold calling, we're sending out packages, we're following up. And our goal was to have 4 yeses per month. 4 yeses per month, that was our goal. And usually by the end of the month, we would get those 4 yeses. We would hit our yes goal. Sometimes we wouldn't make it. Sometimes we'd get 2 or 3, but that was basically it. Now, what's really funny is we were entrepreneurs. No one was setting our quota for us, but we had come up with this kind of arbitrary number that seemed doable at the time. And it also seemed very comfortable. So we said, all right, when we set these yes goals, typically come in, but every now and then we would get lucky. And in the middle of the month, halfway through, we would end up with our yes goal, like just randomly, we would end up, just getting lucky and we would get our 4 yeses. So what do you think we did with the rest of the month? I'd love somebody to tell me in the chat, what do you think we did with the rest of the month once we hit those 4 yeses? oh my gosh, you guys have no faith in me. Cocktails. Yes. Relaxed. Holiday. Some of you said kept going, and I really appreciate that vote of confidence. No, we were like, we're done. We would take time off. Jenna, the foot was off the pedal. Yeah, we relaxed. We were like, hey, we hit our yes goal. Now, keep in mind, we wanted to earn more money. Keep in mind, we had big goals and dreams that we wanted to accomplish, but we had set this little 4 yeses a month. That was all we needed, and we would do okay. And then we said, okay, wait a minute. Let's change this up. Let's set a goal for 100 companies to say no to us each month. And now keep in mind, we were selling to businesses. We were actually calling on large corporations. That's who we were cold calling on, which that's a lot of fun, I got to tell you. So we had a goal to get 100 companies to say no to us each month. So we started and we said, let's not worry about the yeses. We're just going to call, we're going to send packages, we're going to follow up. And we did. And we would get a yes, and we would get another yes halfway through the month and another yes. And we had more business than we knew what to do with when we were setting this crazy no goal of 100 no's. It was sometimes we would only get to 60 or 70 no's. We couldn't even get to 100 because that's pretty hard actually for the people that we were calling on. So, but we had more than we could even deliver. Richard was the trainer of the two of us at the time. I was doing the sales and marketing, and it was overwhelming. And we said, wow, we actually have to step back a little. But then the funny thing happened. So we would step back a little bit, take our foot off the brake, just, okay, we don't need to get all these no's. And then all of a sudden we would notice lean times on the calendar and be like, oh, we don't have as many yeses. And we could always look back on the calendar and see when we hadn't been setting and hitting our no goal. And that's the insidious thing about yes goals, is sometimes they can actually limit your performance. But here's why no goals works. And it worked so perfectly with what Christy was sharing with all of you. Christy, the numbers woman, she's so great. The thing is that by setting no goals, what it taps into is the behavior of having conversations. Adam said it. Number one, talk to more people. Right? It forces you to talk to more people, make more invitations, get more no's. It's just that simple. And so when you set a no goal, it's not about just the results, it's about the behaviors. And those are the behaviors that make people successful in your business. The inviting, the talking to more people, the following up. Those are the behaviors, and that's the power of no goal. So in your workbook, on your sheet, you will see it says, what's your no goal? So I want you to think about this, and you don't have to share it if you don't want. Certainly, if you feel like you want to just throw something out. And by the way, this would be for the week. So if you want to have fun with this, try it for a week. Come up with a no goal, set a no goal, and see. It could be 10, it could be 25. If you feel like sharing it, or if not, if you don't want to, just write it down on your paper for 1 week. How many no's can you collect? And by the way, it's in any area. So it's in any area of your business. And when you think about the different areas that you can collect no's in, I just want to give you this little framework. And that is that when any business that we speak to, when we're talking about setting no goals, the best way to figure out, how to kind of identify your no goals and how many you want to set and all of that is to think about the go for no moments that are in your business. And these are the moments where you have the prerogative, you have the opportunity to ask. So for a lot of you, it's just, hey, are you open to taking a look at our business? Or, would you like to, it's making that invitation, right? It's just seeing if they're open to taking a look at the product. So it's the basic invitation. That's like a key go for no moment. Following up is another key go for no moment. So when you identify and write down your top 2 or 3 or 4 go for no moments. And by the way, just to give you kind of an example, when Richard was selling the suits, he had probably 50 go for no moments, right? He was showing all of this merchandise. He's showing a suit and a shirt and sport coats. So depending on the business, oftentimes there's tons of go for no moments. If somebody in insurance is they're selling life insurance, but hey, they also sell, home, and they also sell auto, and they also have a identity theft program. So they have all these different options. Those are all go for no moments. And who else do you know that's looking for life insurance, right? Asking for referrals, another go for no moment. So for all of you, when you're thinking about your no goals, think about those go for no moments. Write down those 3 or 4 go for no moments in your business, and then kind of back up and say, how many of those will I have? How many of those are possibilities for me where I can execute on those go for no moments, where I can make the ask and then come up with your no goal there. So that it's kind of like a little way to kind of back into it. The best way I can reach my no goal is to avoid. This is the next statement here on your handout. I wanted to make sure that we got this in, because this is kryptonite to go for no. I mean, if you want to not go for no, if you want to be wildly unsuccessful when it comes to go for no, you will do this. And it stops people from achieving their no goals. It really stops people from achieving everything. I'm going to tell you what it is right now. And if somebody could type it in the chat, that would be great. It's just 2 words. And the 2 words are avoid assumptions. Avoid assumptions. Assumptions kill opportunities. But why do we make them? Thank you. Thank you, Lauren. Why do we make those assumptions? Well, I'll tell you why we make assumptions, because assumptions protect us, right? Assumptions are great protection, and our brain loves to come up with assumptions. Our brains are such great storytellers. Remember how we were talking in the beginning about fear and how your brain comes up with all these crazy things to protect you? Your brain also loves to make assumptions. So as soon as you come up with a plan, like, hey, I'm going to go next door and I'm going to talk to my neighbor about the product or the business opportunity, your brain will automatically come up with all the assumptions as to why that's a really bad idea for you to do that. Like, you're going to go talk to the neighbor? You can't do that. Well, she has 3 children. Don't you know that? I'm sure she's busy. I think her husband's sick. That's probably a really bad idea. It's a bad time. It's rude. It's this, right? Your brain is coming up. Your brain is developing this elaborate story of all of the reasons why you shouldn't do that. And so what happens is we have these great no goals that we want to achieve. And then our brain's like, no. No, we're not doing any of this, because we've got to make sure that you are following all of these great assumptions, because you are psychic and your brain thinks it's so smart. And of course it's helping you because it doesn't want you to be rejected. That's why it's giving you assumptions. Your brain is coming back around. It's so sneaky. It's so smart. And so you have to say, wow, thanks for the fabulous story, brain. I'm just going to leave that assumption to the side and let the person tell me no instead of giving myself the no. Get the no from someone else rather than giving yourself the no. I used to do this all the time at LensCrafters to protect myself. And here's the really interesting thing. I was so clever. My brain was so clever at this. I would see somebody and I would be selling to them. And I would come up with a reason, like assumptions of, oh, they wouldn't want to spend that much. And, oh, they probably don't want to get this option or that option. And I would house it under the guise of great customer service. You see, I wasn't offering better products, additional products, things this customer probably should know about because I was delivering great service. I was picking and choosing what they should hear about. Well, how is picking and choosing what somebody else should hear about great service? It's actually the opposite. I was simply protecting myself from not getting rejected. So I had this epiphany. I went from, oh, I'm a superstar salesperson to, Andrea, you're delusional. You've come up with all of these ways to protect yourself from rejection. So really, when it comes to serving at the highest level, we let other people decide. That's how we serve at the highest level, not about making decisions and choices for other people. Thank you, Beck, for adding that in there. So we have a couple more core concepts here. We've talked about the failure model, right? We're going to operate under the new model. We've talked about changing your interpretation of a no, making sure that we take that knee-jerk reaction, which is typically, historically been very negative, we turn that around to something positive, and we keep going. The external reaction, we keep being productive. Don't slow down, don't stop. There's no reason to. And we've talked about setting no goals, right? And avoiding making assumptions. So our fourth go for no concept is that no doesn't mean never. No means not yet. This is the persistence part. And one of the questions that I get asked a lot is, well, isn't go for no, isn't it, pressure filled? You have to be an aggressive, salesy salesperson. It's get a yes at all cost. Actually, nothing could be further from the truth. Go for no is the exact opposite of what a lot of people assume that it is. You see, go for yes is, I'm going to convince you and strong arm you and force you. And I think Adam talked about this, right? We've all been helped by that type of salesperson to say yes at any cost, right? I'm going to do this at any cost, and you're going to just hate me, but I'm going to force you into saying yes. Go for no is simply making sure that you're executing on those go for no moments, that you are asking the question when the question arises, when you have that opportunity, when that go for no moment is in front of you, you execute on it. And you let the chips fall where they may. The outcome is what it is. You can't control what someone else is going to decide, do, or spend, but you can control yourself, right? You can control what you do. So that is what we focus on here. And when it comes to persistence, that is so key because we know that oftentimes people don't change. So it's not about strong-arming them and convincing them. It's about making sure that we're adding value and staying in contact with people, building on that relationship, checking in to see if anything's changed. And I think Ange gave all of you great scripting for that. Typically, I think what happens is, and this is oftentimes just us coming up with reasons why we can't follow up with people, is we don't know what to say. We don't have the right script. Well, Ange gave you a couple great options, but here's the thing. It doesn't even matter if you use those, great. It's right there for you. If you don't, and you do something that's not as good, or it's not as creative or whatever, the point is just do it. Persistence pays off. There's a reason why they call it fortune is in the follow-up. The reason the fortune is in the follow-up is that not many people do it. They don't hang in there long enough. You know, one of the analogies that we talk about, we talk about this in the book, is to that of children. And I know that this can sometimes, it can be used as a go for no could be used as a tool for evil, or it could be used as a tool for good. We always want to use it as a tool for evil, or as a tool for good. My God, we want to use it as a tool for good. And what I mean by that is, we want to use it in the customer's best interest, right? But we have to remember the persistence that we had as kids. And when you look at kids like in the grocery store or something, they will just ask their parents for something over and over and over. They don't care. They stick with it. But somewhere along the line, that natural sense of tenacity that we had, it gets drummed out of us. And we become like I was, just wildly concerned, wildly consumed with the idea of what other people think of us, of if we're looking too pushy or aggressive. Well, remember, you're not, because a no is a perfectly acceptable answer. But a friend of ours heard us talking about this idea of kids and how they have such tenacity and when they're trying to get something. And he said, Andrea, I have to send you the book that my daughter Hadley created. So I wanted to share all of this book with all of you today. I have it here. It's called One Day I Asked My Daddy for a Cookie by Hadley, illustrated by Hadley. I'm going to read you this book. It's very simple. It's very short. We actually bought the rights to this book, by the way, for $100. So she did make some money off of this. Just want you all to know that I have the rights to be reading this. So the book goes like this. One day I asked my daddy for a cookie, but my daddy didn't let me have a cookie. So I asked for a cookie, but he didn't let me have a cookie. So I asked for a cookie, but he didn't let me have a cookie. So I asked for a cookie. He let me have a cookie. The end. This is the essence of Go for No from a persistence standpoint. It simply means, it doesn't mean you badger people. It doesn't mean you make them crazy, but you stay in the game long enough. And I will tell you that I have had clients. I have been around, like you guys know, I've told you, 2 decades. And there are companies that I've wanted to speak for. And my current record, it was 9 years. 9 years I pestered this company. I'm just kidding. I stuck with them. I believe in what I do. I wanted them to get this message, and eventually they hired me. Most recently, I finally broke that record, and I had a company that has been on my list that I have been following up with. People have come and gone. There's new people now. Maybe that had something to do with it. They got an enlightened leader in there who cared about teaching their people this concept. And that was 14 years. That's my record. I don't give up. I'm respectful. I believe in my product, and I know all of you do too. So we have to remember that childlike persistence, that it's okay to hang in there and to offer that value and to build that relationship, and that it's not about ever forcing somebody to do something they don't want. And if you get a no, a good no is better than a bad yes. If you get a no, that's great. And you can say, hey, and remember your response. It's great. Thank you. I appreciate you letting me know. And hey, do you mind if I follow up with you in 6 months just to see if anything has changed? And even if they say to that, no, I never want to hear from you again, you say, well, I wish you well, and thank you anyway. Like, just you take the high road and you get that no and you move on, right? So that's our concept number 4. No doesn't mean never. And by the way, especially in your business, I just want to add this, and I know you all know this to be true. People are scared to change. Sometimes they don't allow new things into their life, new ideas, because they're afraid of what that means. You know, you are all used to growth. You're used to change. You're learning. You're getting personal development. Other people are not quite where you are. And so change is sometimes really slow for people. So remember that as well. And I know you know that. So this brings us to concept number 5, which is to sell is to serve. And I want to give you this definition of courageous selling. The definition of courageous selling for me, please write this down, it's in your workbook, is when you care more about helping people solve their challenge And or for you guys, I put /live better, right? You want to help people be healthier. When you care more about helping people solve their challenge and live better than you do about being rejected. That is my definition of courageous selling. You care more about helping people than you do about being rejected. I was not there when I learned Go for No. I cared more about not being rejected, and I did everything I could to make sure it didn't happen. But then I realized I was going to let other people decide. I was going to hear no and let them decide instead of me deciding for them. And guess what? That takes courage. It doesn't mean that you'll be completely fearless. Let's be honest. I opened this talk and I said, hey, is it possible for you to become, right? For you to have no fear of rejection? And a lot of you said, yeah, it's possible. And I said, it's possible to an extent. We still have our biology that we have to deal with. But do you remember the Wizard of Oz? You remember Dorothy and the Tin Man? And well, I have to tell you, my favorite character was the Cowardly Lion, right? And the lion is the symbol of courage. And there was nobody who was more afraid in that movie of everything. He was afraid of the witch. He was afraid of the haunted forest. He was afraid of everything constantly than the Cowardly Lion. He was completely afraid. And there was also simultaneously no one who was more courageous. He had that courage in him that whole time, which is why when they finally got to the wizard and he was he was so desperate to be awarded courage, to be given courage, he was told, you have it inside of you. It's just who you are. And that is who you are. You might feel a lot of fear. You might feel that anxiety. You have those things that you don't want to happen, but you already have that courage inside you. So I don't need to give it to you. You just need to tap into it. And you can do that by utilizing some of the tools, some of the mindset, some of the strategies that we've talked about tonight. So I just want to recap what we've talked about. We've talked about so much. I told you guys the Go for No story and how I discovered it. We went through the new model of failure and success. It's the fundamental model of this whole process. You can't have one without the other. They're opposite sides of the same coin. They rely on each other. You learned how to change your interpretation of a no, to change the thoughts that go in your mind. Those other thoughts that you typically have, those aren't serving you. Those are just bad programs. You learned about yes goals and you learned about setting no goals and how to do that and how important it is to avoid assumptions. And then we talked about childlike persistence, right? Don't forget about Hadley and being willing to fight through, those no's, to hang with people as they wrap their brains around their need to change. And then finally, the final message, which is so important. And as I said, don't use Go for No as a tool for evil. You just use it as a tool for good. To sell is to serve. I so believe that. Sales makes the world go round. There's nothing wrong with it. You can do it from your heart. You can do it. You do it to serve people. And it takes a tremendous amount of courage and bravery and resilience. And you have that in you right now. I don't need to give it to you. So just tap into that and let yourself be that cowardly lion, even if you have a little fear. And so I really so appreciate being with all of you today. Thank you so much for making me a part of this amazing sales bootcamp. I'm with some fantastic speakers and trainers, and I will pass this back to you, Celine.
Oh, look, thank you so much. That was absolutely fantastic. Can we fill up the chat here with amazing appreciation?